Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us and welcome to today's session. You are turning in to the American Indian College Fund's LGBTQ webinar series. This webinar is a three-part series that will cover LGBTQ topics specific to higher education, identity, and student support. This is an initiative from the College Fund to increase awareness and advocacy for LGBTQ students, staff, and community in and near tribal colleges. Our third and final webinar is entitled Student Reflections from LGBTQ Events at Tribal Colleges and Universities. At this time, we would love to give a shout out to all the TCUs that are participating in this webinar. We're so glad that you've joined us and hope that you can come away with some new understanding. We have Haskell Indian Nations University, Bay Mills Community College, Institute of American Indian Arts, Dene College, Northwest Indian College, Sitting Bull College, College of Muskogee Nation, San Carlos Apache College, Nebraska Indian Community College, Lakota Ray Ojibwe Community College, and Keweenaw Bay Ojibwe Community College. We apologize if we've missed anyone who's on the call. This webinar will be available to everyone who has registered through their email, along with the resources that we will share at the end of the webinar. We would love to hear from you, so please ask your questions in the chat box, and we and our guests will do our best to answer them towards the end of the webinar. So just quick introductions. My name is Natalie Youngbull, and I am Cheyenne Arapaho Sioux and Assiniboine from El Reno, Oklahoma. My gender pronouns are she, her, and hers. I serve as the Faculty Development Program Officer at the College Fund and administer all fellowships to TCU faculty working towards master's and doctorate degrees. In my role, I also plan the annual TCU Faculty Research Convening and am the co-editor of the TCU Research Journal.
Hello, I'm Davida Del Mar, and I am Navajo from Flagstaff, Arizona. My gender pronouns are she, her, and hers. I work here at the College Fund as a college admissions coach for high school students with the Native Pathways to College program. The purpose of this webinar, so tribal colleges and universities are unique in various capacities, and their student experience can enlighten how they approach LGBTQ issues and events. This webinar will highlight an initiative from the American Indian College Fund and the Arcus Foundation from this past year. We also get to hear from representatives from the Institute of American Indian Arts and Haskell Indian Nations University. They will share their experiences of starting their campus groups or programs and what it means for future outreach.
The American Indian College Fund received funding from the Arcus Foundation on the basis of promoting social justice for tribal communities by providing scholarship support to American Indian Alaska Native LGBTQ students, as well as funding for LGBTQ organizing at Native serving institutions. A $5,000 grant was awarded to 4 tribal colleges and universities, them being Haskell Indian Nations University, Institute of American Indian Arts, Northwest Indian College, and Leech Lake Tribal College. Additionally, the College Fund also awarded $30,000 in scholarships during the 2017-2018 academic year to LGBTQ identifying students.
The recipients of the grant came from various backgrounds, and we're so intrigued to see the efforts and hurdles that these groups are coming from. Today, we will be hearing from representatives of IAIA and Haskell, but we first wanted to review what each grantee accomplished.
First up is Leech Lake. Leech Lake Tribal College is located near Bemidji, Minnesota, and celebrated Love Week. The events included a Rainbow Social, an event called Ally Tips and Understanding, which is an event informing allies about history and how to be better supportive. Another event with elders from the community that translates to We Are All Related, and finally a drag show. What's great about LTC is that they approached their elders to gain support for these events. They were able to create a flag with the college logo and designed a safe space sign pictured here with the rainbow sweetgrass enclosing the college logo in a heart shape. The saying above translates loosely into love and inclusivity for all humankind.
Northwest Indian College is located near Bellingham, Washington. So they were able to celebrate a Pride Day. They have 56 attendees at the main event, and events for the day included poster making, the Pride Day walk, and a tie-dye and tutus event. They actually gained a lot of perspective from a survey they administered with attendees. So from that, they were able to give feedback to the grant administrator, and also they found that there was a lot of support and love for the events, which is awesome. Finally, the LGBTQ2S Pride Club was created, and this is a formal club that is going to act as a support system for the community and for Northwest Indian College students.
So Haskell Indian Nations University is located in Lawrence, Kansas. They hosted an art show that had over 50 attendees. They had a drag show with 3 performers and a historical presentation. And then they hosted a Two-Spirit powwow. They've been told it's the first Two-Spirit powwow on a college campus. And attendees traveled from across the nation from Florida, Iowa, Illinois, Oklahoma, Colorado, New Mexico, Wyoming, Montana, and California to attend the powwow. Great job, Haskell.
There's also Institute of American Indian Arts. They actually celebrated a Pride Week, and this included several different events. So they had a Two-Spirit 101 workshop, a community panel, and a film festival with an art show as well. So I also was featured in a video that we at the American Indian College Fund prepared as part of the Arcus grant, but also that we have on our YouTube channel. So give me a sec as I pull this up, but we will feature the video right now.
Here, I went to the club meeting, and that was when I identified pronouns. Opened my mind in a beautiful way because that led in a lot of self-expression that resulted in my, to me, my full realization of my, but it also opened my eyes to so many more people in my own community had to have the grand purposes. So I wanted people to listen from an LGBTQ plus person about different terms, be included in a conversation from people outside of the community, because I'm inside this bubble, so sometimes I don't know what people on the outside need to know or want.
The Pride Week and discuss experience for me because it was the first time I had ever openly spoken to an audience about my experience. As tribal, I think it's important out of our home with the idea of what it means to be queer in the 21st century is something that I'm new to and something that I really needed to understand.
I was the first Pride Week because that's a huge honor. It is proven that support, especially family support, but support by coworkers, by friends, that support a huge difference in the outcome of someone's life.
We come to 5, 10, 15 hours away from our homes. We're here looking for a home away from home. My group of friends spirited as well. I recently just to that, with that affecting me, I like to put up more of a hand out and show that I'm here, like to hurt themselves because they're not accepted.
I just have seen a new pride in the LGBTQ students in their community. Certainly with the panel that happened yesterday, many of the students had an opportunity. They took the opportunity. They challenged themselves to speak outward. I hope they feel more support from administration.
I became aware that a population of our students who were LGBTQ students marginalized. They felt like they were Native student gender or Asian. I'm acutely aware that many of our people feel heartsick because they're not accepted in their communities. So the tribal colleges are once again at the forefront of doing something that draws attention to our traditions and to being loving to our people.
It's a necessary first step, and I think it was something that I hope brought comfort to some people who enough self-reflection.
I'm seeing a lot more support just in the acknowledgement that the students here deserve to have their own II Pride Week. I really hope, it's in my heart, I really hope that it continues to grow and expand, and I imagine that it will.
Okay, great. So next we're going to hear from Mia Olson, who is actually an organizer at IAIA. Mia?
I'm totally here. Yes.
Hi, Mia. You can go ahead.
Okay, beautiful. So, hello everybody attending this call. My name is Mia Olson. As was mentioned earlier, I am a student at the Institute of American Indian Arts, and I was the main student coordinator for my school's very first Pride Week, which was what we utilized our grant funding for. And so this project, it was a culmination of a lot of things. So being a person that grew up in basically the buckle of the Bible Belt, I had always this yearning to educate and advocate for my community. And I didn't always have the resources to do that. For example, when I was in high school, there was a lot of kerfuffle from administration in the way that, you know, they said we didn't have funding to do the things that we wanted, therefore they weren't willing to give us a platform. And then when I moved to New Mexico, when I came to the Institute of American Indian Arts, then that was really where my passion for advocacy, the doors really opened, because I had such a beautiful support system both in my community and by the administration for the first time. And through that, I was able to do a lot more work within my community. I have actually been asked numerous times to educate within orientation for students. I have been invited to educate the faculty and staff. And then it really kicked off when my Dean of Students, Carmen Heenan, she discovered this grant provided by the Indian College Fund. And through that, we applied, and then we found out we got the award. And then that really, it kind of turbo boosted my plans for education in this institution, because I was like, oh, we have the wherewithal to kind of do basically whatever we want. And it was through that, you know, I reached out to more community organizations, LGBTQ plus and Two-Spirit friendly organizations, came to my school, had booths, had informational material and resources for our students. And when talking to them, many of them had actually said that they'd never heard of many of these sources before, or like ever. We also had our most successful event, the community panel, where myself, other campus students, and just other community LGBTQ plus and Two-Spirit members were just on an open panel, open to basically any and all questions that our community had, and that consisted of students, staff, and faculty of our school. And it was basically the entire school, because it was actually approved to be implemented to an all-day mandatory school-wide event. So we got to have a lot of input from our perspectives on what we want from our allies, what education we believe our allies need to have. There was a lot of, I guess, bridging and understanding, because a lot of questions that ally community members had for us was, in my eyes, more of a fundamental, like, how did you come to this realization of your identity? How does that impact you as an Indigenous person? How does that intersect with how you exist in this life as an Indigenous person, but also as this person who lives in this spectrum between, in a more predominantly cisgender and heteronormative way of living and society, in terms of what's more palatable for people in the outside world, or what's more accepted or educated upon. So it was really a life-changing course of events for me as a person who wants to be a lifelong advocate, organizer, and educator. I know it was changing for a lot of students, because many of them had said that, in the events that they participated in, that was the first time that they had gotten to participate in these kinds of events in which their identity was not questioned and not invalidated. And it's, in my eyes, paved, at least for my school, a pathway for so much more open dialogue and mutual healing within our communities.
Awesome. Thank you, Mia. So we're now going to switch over to Haskell. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Yaad Bryce Malinisha, Toinishle, Nakhaidine Bashishin, Ki Ani Ea Dashiche, Thatnazatni Edashnale, Maite, Klizide, Nasha, Meg Edba Hosana Deshalan, Alcotine Naklenishle. So my name is Bryce Miley. The slide shows that you're about to see are from my internship 2 class, appropriately titled The Gay Internship. So if we move on to the next slide. So this is just a timeline of when the grant was submitted to me or sent to me through email, stemming from, I think, that 30,000 that was granted to LGBTQ students, identified students. So this was a rundown. We received the grant back in 2017, and we selected February 2018 as the first ever Haskell Two-Spirit Celebration Month here at Haskell. And Haskell first opened as the United States Indian Industrial Training School in 1884, eventually went on to Haskell Institute, then Haskell Indian Junior College, and in 1993 was renamed to Haskell Indian Nations University. And if we can move on to the next slide. To start off the first week, we announced we gave the master calendar. We started with a bystander training, proclamation day, which was that we sent to our Haskell president as well, and that our committee, a very small committee of ours, consisted of at least 5 bodies or 6 bodies throughout since last October all the way up until April. So we've kind of worked with 5 people here at the school. 2 are staff members, faculty staff, and the other 3, including myself and 2 other students, were part of the committee. So our first week was just a mere introduction to what's going to be expected for the next 3 weeks. If we could move on to the week 2 slide, please. And we had a Haskell Coming Out week, also followed by a Haskell Coming Out day. And we had an open mic night at our library. So a couple students came through, a lot of them rapped and just got to spit on the mic for a bit. So that was fun. And the Two-Spirit movie night was pretty interesting, to say the least. the movie itself, I've never seen it, at least didn't see it herself. So the movie itself was pretty intense. Like it was just like, oh my gosh. But yeah, that was a fun week, and I got to see a couple students who are LGBTQI identified on campus do a Haskell coming out day post on Instagram and Facebook. So I saw a couple students participate throughout the Haskell coming out week. And moving on to the third slide, we had a campus training and health awareness day, and later on that week we brought in L. Ray Nelson. He is the founder of Navajo Equality, Dene Equality. It's more of a grassroots movement, which was basically to tackle the Dene Marriage Act of 2005, which prohibits and voids same-sex marriage on Navajo Nation. Him and his partner Brennan have been on the forefront of this, and when he came out here, he spoke to the audience and he said, you know, after a while we realized, you know, this Navajo equality isn't just about marriage. It's, you know, getting our voice back out there and letting people know that we've always been here as people. Specifically for Navajo, we're in the origin stories, and we have a word for the two additional genders, so therefore it makes us valid. Yeah, so El Ray coming out and experience when El Ray came through.
Hello, my name's Elise Towie, and I work here at Haskell. I'm a member of the Iowa tribe of Kansas, Nebraska, and the Menominee Nation. I'm also a Haskell graduate alumni. So, you know, when El Ray came out, it was incredible because he brought so much energy and so much focus and just so much knowledge with him onto our campus. We had some really big crowds that came out for our different events. For example, the first event that we kicked off at the beginning of February, we had an art program, which we went in and we had our art professor, David Titterington, and what he did is we made collages. When I usually have an event here on campus, in my head, I try to say, okay, this certain number is the number of students that I'll be happy if they show up, you know, if they come to participate. For that one, in my head, I thought if 10 students come to show up, I'll be really happy. We had food, we had music, you know, it was in our Dick West Gallery, which is one of our art institutes. So I was blown away when we had almost 50 students show up. There may have been over 50 students, but we only captured 50 signatures. It was incredible. The energy was so high. Students were so happy. There were people laughing. They stayed till we closed it down that night, till we finally said, it's late, we have to go home. Nobody wanted to leave. It was awesome. So as we went through this month, it was just an incredible journey. And I'll tell you, as an ally, it was an honor to be asked to participate. You know, when Bri came to me and said, you know, I've been asked to do this grant, I have all these ideas, I'm not quite sure how to do the grant. I said, give it to me, let's do it. And within about a day and a half, I think maybe 2 days, we had it written and submitted. And so we were very, very excited when we received it. And we just, from that point, we just started working. You know, our committee, as Bryce said, was very small. But that was good because it kept us focused. It made us really hustle to get things done. And we did it. It was successful. You know, everything that we had planned out to do, we did. I take that back. We were going to have a sweat lodge. We didn't do that. Part of that was because of the weather. It was so incredibly cold. We had to sort of shelf that for many reasons. But everything else, you know, everything was successful. And it was so empowering to work with students, to see how hard they worked, A, but then B, how well they worked. Because everything was a success, every single thing we did. You know, when we had the drag show and then the POWWOW. Yeah, if you can go to the next slide, please. So we had our, we had all these. We had safe zone training was one that we had to reschedule. And the reason why was because we were working with, we're real lucky here in Lawrence, Kansas, because we are surrounded, we have Haskell, but that's the best part. The second other good parts are that we're surrounded by a number of other higher learning institutes, other colleges. So we were able to pull in from those different colleges some of the knowledge that they had. For example, the Safe Zone Training, KU, their LGBTQ diversity organization was going to come in and do that. They had to reschedule. We had people come from all over. We had, when people came to our drag show, it wasn't just coming from places like, let's say, University of Kansas or K-State, Kansas State, or other universities that are in our area. It was from the community. So we had people not only from across the nation that came and asked us when we were going to schedule our next one this coming year. That we had those people. We also had a lot of people in our community because, again, we're really lucky. Lawrence, Kansas is a very liberal, for the most part, open arms for being in the Midwest. And so we're very lucky. So we had a lot of support within our communities. I'm going to let Bri, though, talk about the drag show and the powwow because they were just the most incredible things that happened. And but I want you to hear it from a student's point of view. Hold on one moment.
Hello again, Bryce speaking. I participated in the drag show. I've never done drag prior in my life, so getting my hair done with a fake weave on and makeup, so it was fun. It was a really fun evening, and there was no feeling of animosity or people there judging people. It was just a space where people just felt comfortable, and that moves on to our Two-Spirit powwow. When people hear the word Haskell, there's such a magnitude to that. And when we announced that we were going to be having a Two-Spirit powwow, before we had the details, before we had, what entails within a powwow, people were excited. I shared an event on Facebook, and I was keeping it updated throughout my winter break, and even to the day when the powwow happened. And so many people were responding, asking questions, and people from like California to Montana, from Florida, and the surrounding states here in the Midwest to Arizona and all that. Like, people came by, and that entire day I was there from 12 o'clock at noon, and I was the last one out of that building to close down the building, make sure everything was shut down right. But that entire day was just the aura in that building at Tecumseh Hall, one of our historic buildings. It just felt safe. It was just a place where people were just greeting one another, where we didn't really feel like we needed to validate ourselves, as Mia said, and we didn't really have the need to just really prove ourselves, really. And we had a Two-Spirit drum group come in, and a Two-Spirit MC host for us as well. And we also had volunteer drum groups come in, not specifically in the Two-Spirit demographic, but just to see that we had the community support from Haskell and non-Two-Spirit people that are from the Lawrence community or from Haskell community. And we also had clubs that volunteered, such as one of our fraternities and Danette Club to, Social Work Club. And we also had a potluck where I come from. Butchering sheep's a big deal. So we didn't butcher a sheep there, but we had a potluck, and we bought food, and I just wanted people just to feel at home just during that time and space. So it was a beautiful time. And a little promotion that we did here on this slide, Reggie and I, the student to the far right in the black shirt, he was part of the committee, and we were on the KKFI 90.1 radio show in Kansas City, and they do this trans talk, and we just got to promote the Two-Spirit Powwow, promote Haskell, and kind of give our perspective of how we identify as Indigenous LGBTQ peoples. And I know that maybe we're going over time, but if you could go on to the next slide to wrap it up too. And just a quick one, utilizing our resources with the slide right, with Scott Turner. I went to the public library here in town, and I got to just promote Haskell and talk about my own experience as a Nagrehe, someone that identifies as a feminine man. So I kind of just interjected my voice during that time, took over his presentation, if you will. So that was interesting, and I was on the Navajo Equality page, and I was interviewed by Indians.com and the Haskell Indian Leader, one of the oldest student-run newspapers here in the United States. So a lot of promotion through journalism was part of this as well, and social media. And to wrap up, going on to the next slide, the picture next to the flyers for the Two-Spirit Powwow, just reeling. I can still reel about that. It was a beautiful time. So many people came through, and we had at least over 250 people come through, and maybe even more. We really didn't count who came through, but just being there all day, I saw so many people. I met so many people, took pictures with many people. But it was an amazing day, and the artwork with the pink bar below the image in the middle, I drew that, and then Reggie Blackout, another committee member, he drew the two feathers and the hand and arm. So it was an awesome experience to be able to be part of this, and to know that I'm not just knowing that I wasn't alone dealing with my own identity, and to wanting to heal my own trauma that I received by just merely being myself, and hearing other stories of these colleges and TCUs being at the forefront and telling people or re-educating people, reclaiming our identity to say, hey, we've been here. We've always been here too. We're part of the circle, and we want our space back in that circle. So I was very, very happy to be part of this grant and be able to express it during my time here at Haskell. I'm graduating May 18th with my BA in Indigenous and American Indian Studies program with an emphasis in sovereignty. So in a sense, this grant was my form of organic sovereignty, if you will, just to exercise it and just to make my voice known, and hopefully other LGBTQ Two-Spirit brothers and sisters here on Haskell campus take this baton, if you will, and move forward. And here's a couple pictures that we've had. There's a lot more, but it was an amazing day. It was all love that day. It was kinship. It's what Indigenous people are: nationhood, community, family, and love. And also too, I hope this sparks something for Haskell, and it keeps us grounded. And I really hope that we continue this, and it continues on next year, because a lot of people have asked, what's going on next year? And I'm like, I don't know. But thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Bri, Annalise. That was amazing. And yeah, just thank you for your amazing perspective, your representation. You had some really powerful words, and we really appreciate it. So I know we're way over time, but actually no one has left. So I'm so glad that everyone is still engaged and is still here. So these perspectives and events have given us more hope for future programming at TCUs. One important theme from all of the grantees was that these events allowed students for the first time to formalize their identity in public. That's a significant feeling to have at your school, in your community, and around fellow Native folks. So yes, One of the important themes is definitely identity within this to support our students for sure. Another point is that support is definitely needed by administration, faculty and staff, and the community. This energy and support can invigorate students to seek funding, find safe spaces, and provide opportunities to advocate for this already marginalized LGBTQ group. On a final note, students want a voice. LGBTQ students shouldn't have to prove themselves in order to receive basic support around their identity. Listen to your students on what is needed on campus and start your programs with the mindset that this is for their success beyond their education, which include their family, community, and their tribe for sure.
So thank you so much for joining us on this webinar. We'd like to ask at this point in time, if you have any questions, go ahead and start putting them in so that we can address those in just a minute. But we want to take a moment to give our great thanks to Bri, Elise, and Mia for sharing their personal insight about today's topic. And thank you so much to Jack Soto, the grant coordinator for the Arcus grant. Also for sharing with us the information for the other two TCUs that were unable to join us on this call and share about their experiences and their events. And then finally, just thank you to outpouring support from all the TCUs and attendance, not only with this webinar, but the previous two. This has been a great endeavor for us, and we hope that, like we said at the very beginning, that you came away with some new understanding. And you know, we feel like we're always on a journey together of learning in this space, and so we're really grateful for that. At this time, we'll go ahead and start addressing any questions that you all may have.
Oh yeah, so we had a question of, can we email the YouTube link? Yes, we definitely can. So we will email the link out to everybody, and then actually that's going to be released next month in June to everybody, like so that we can advertise through the American Indian College Fund. But yes, we will email it to you for those who have pre-registered for sure. So someone asked where the grant source for where the grant source was, and we actually talked about at the beginning. It's called the Arcus grant, so it's the Arcus Foundation. And just to give a little background or more to that, is the grant will not be offered again. That's super unfortunate. We apologize for that. But actually, this is probably hopefully momentum for you all and for us as well to gain more support and find increased funding elsewhere. But unfortunately, it won't be granted again. But this has invigorated us. All of these stories and all the feedback we've gotten and the surveys and the different data we've collected, we can share with other organizations, and hopefully we can get more funding in that sense. But yeah, unfortunately, the Arcus grant will not be available next year.
So how many students were involved with the Haskell group? That's a good question. I think they said, well, it just, they had so many different events, but I think I remember Bri mentioning that there were at least 250 attendees to the Two-Spirit Powwow. And then at another event, they had at least 50 attendees whenever they really only kind of planned or felt like maybe 10 attendees would have been a successful event.
So Elise just said that there was 140 at the drag show.
140 attendees.
Wow. That's awesome. And actually they had a committee of student organizers of 5 to 6.
So it looks like that's all the questions that we have at this time. We thank you all so much for staying on the call with us, and we hope that you have a wonderful afternoon.